All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:32 p.m. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so the first item on the agenda is to amend the agenda. Do I have any amendments to the agenda?
I have a question. We have people here to talk, and I know that there is public comments is for items not on the agenda. And I think the things that people want to talk about today are what we're going to be talking about in the executive session. So are we going to allow people to say what they want to say if they're here in public comments for items not on the agenda or?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm going to let everyone who came today.
Okay.
have their moment. Now, are there public comments for items not on the agenda? After stating your name, just please concisely state your question or concern upon which you are commenting, and you will have 3 minutes for your supporting statement. Do I have any comments? Davis?
Sure. And just to be clear too, because I had two comments. One of them was on open meeting law and how because the process surrounding a hiring is not the item that is on the agenda and actually cannot be discussed in an executive session versus the process application, which is an executive session. So just to clarify. I'll skip that part. I think that's
Okay.
all right. So my name is Davis McGraw, and my public comment is around the process of hiring positions, specifically the process of hiring leadership in the town, currently chief of police. So my comment is in regards to that process. I'm deeply concerned that the process that has been carried out to date to fill the role of chief of police does not meet the standard that our community deserves. The failure to publicly list a position, to my knowledge, and seek input from a broad range of stakeholders in a structured search and vetting process makes it really difficult to shake the feeling that convenience and proximity are being given greater precedence here than quality. All that I really want to be able to say anytime this kind of stuff comes up is that my select board and town manager are committed to taking the necessary time and effort to ensure that we arrive at the best possible outcome. And right now, it's just really hard to say that. My concern's more urgent right now because in the next year, you all are going to be hiring a new town manager. And as should be the case in this process, that process ought to be robust, transparent, and very clearly communicated to the entire public. I know that being on the board is a challenging role. I know that really well. It competes for space in all of our lives, but all of you here are here because you sought these seats out. And whether the ultimate decision in any one of these processes comes down to a town manager or to the board, you have asked for and been given the responsibility to make sure that processes like the one that's being carried out today have demonstrable integrity and that your community is reasonably informed of how they are being carried out in advance and not several weeks after they begin. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Are there any other comments? Maura?
Everybody, my name is Mara Hershey. I am here tonight because I have concerns about the lack of a clear standard hiring procedure for leadership positions in our town. The lack of transparency raises concerns about fairness, oversight, and public trust in the process. With the hiring of a new town manager on the horizon, I just have a few questions I'd like to pose to this about the select board's role in that process. And I'll be emailing these questions after this meeting. I don't expect you to answer them tonight. But what is the documented standard process for hiring a new town manager or any municipal employee in Windsor? And can the select board point me to a written memo or official procedure that outlines those steps? And if such a document exists, where can the public access it? If it does not exist, why not? Tom has mentioned a targeted selection of candidates for his hiring decisions. Does that mean that jobs are never posted publicly? And is this a recruitment best practice, or is this being used as an excuse to bypass a competitive and transparent hiring process? What measures are in place to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure hiring practices are free from favoritism or undue influence? And how does the select board plan to engage the public in the town manager hiring process? Will there be any opportunities for public input or community engagement? From what I can gather via an email response to my questions about hiring processes, which I have tonight, the procedure as it stands now, which is not documented anywhere for the public or even for the select board, is Tom consults his private network and hand selects a candidate via targeted selection. Those are his words, meaning candidates are found without a transparent, competitive, or open hiring process, and then has the select board interview the candidate in a private executive session. It's worth noting that Chief Frank never sat for such an interview, underscoring the non-standard nature of this process. There is nothing noted in this email about what happens if the select board deems the candidate unacceptable after an executive session. This gives the public the impression that these are Tom's predetermined decisions that the select board and public have no role in. Without publicly available hiring criteria, the community has no assurance that selections are based on merit rather than personal networks. After reviewing hiring practices in nearby Vermont towns, including Richmond, Springfield, Milton, Randolph, Hartford, and Barre, I found that none operate this way. And I sent an email with more details on that earlier today. The McKay Larson sourced some of that information. I urge the select board to start crafting intentional policy surrounding standard hiring practices, or at least start a conversation about this at an upcoming select board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura. Are there any other public comments?
Are public comments around the hiring going to be for later? Or
No,
it's like things right now, like you could, like the public comments, like what you were speaking about.
I think that it's kind of,
This is kind of it all.
I'm sorry.
No, you mean, are you going to have a chance at a future meeting to?
No, I thought that there was like a thing that said public comments for items not on the agenda.
Yes.
That is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
where we're at.
Okay, and there'll be comment space later on. Or-
No, we're going to go into executive session.
Okay, so in that case, I will.
Come right up.
And I have to admit, it's a little bit about what's on the agenda. My name is Shannon Smith. I'm a Windsor resident, and I just want to ditto and applaud everything that Mara and Davis just shared. I really appreciate the work and the research you've done. Really appreciate all of you for doing the hard work of being on the select board. It's not an easy job. And I would just like to say that I'm really disappointed, Tom, that we've been in this position with a open position for chief of police. During that experience a few years ago, we ended up with a great candidate. I'm really grateful for that. And the chief of police, Chief Frank, has done a really great job. However, the process to get there was not a great job. At one point, and I can pull all of these documents from the town meetings, I think it was in I don't know when it was. It was a few years ago. But you specifically said that like it would be more open, and then at a later date you were just like, yeah, no, it's not going to be open. And then here we are going through this again. You got that public input. You got really, really great reasoning why it needs to be more open, to follow the law and to follow like everything that's going around in the towns around us. And again, you have not done it. And then here we are again. It's just like, Tom, why won't you listen? This time I have to think it's because you're leaving and there's just like no accountability there for you. So I would just like to echo that. I really hope that the process for getting the selection of the next town manager really clarified. I would hate for this to be one of Tom's targeted picks. I think that's crucial that you guys have power here and hold that power. And then the other thing is that, we have a candidate here for the new chief of police position. And I had grave concerns. A simple Google search showed that he made a plea deal for domestic violence against his own wife. And within that plea deal, he violated the relief from abuse order through the state of Vermont. And a plea deal does not mean that you are not guilty. A plea deal means that an agreement is made and that is what justice will look like for that case. Just to be clear, a plea deal does not mean that somebody did not do those things. And I don't know why I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I don't know why we look at a position like the chief of police and then has something like domestic violence or sexual violence, and it just kind of gets pushed to the wayside. You know, he continued on as a Springfield officer after that, and then now he's the chief of Wethersfield. That doesn't mean that Windsor has to do the same thing that those towns did. We can be better. We can do better. If we were hiring for a position for chief of the fire department and somebody came and they had a plea deal on arson, would you be entertaining that? Why is domestic violence less worthy? Like, why does that count for less? There are numerous families in Windsor who are going to need to search, make that horrible choice where they're going to have to like, okay, I'm going to go to the police. Do we want that man there? Do we want him being the influence that's going down through the ranks? Families and law enforcement are like way more likely to experience domestic violence. So people on the staff right now at the police department, they may be involved with their very own domestic violence cases. Their families may be seeking help. And who is going to be their boss? Somebody who has been through that, somebody who has like successfully bargained his way out and come on out on top after that. So like, is that the energy? Is that the seed that we want to plant there? Like domestic violence kills. It kills. Like out of like half of the murders in Vermont, it's like 46% of them are domestic violence. We've had it here in Windsor before, not that long ago. One of my classmates killed somebody. Like it happens. And it's really hard to get up the bravery to decide to go and seek out help from the police. And I just don't know what we would be saying to the community to choose somebody, Tom, like that. And I know that it's easy, but yeah, I will close my statements. Thank you all for listening very, very much.
Shannon. Are there any other public comments for items not on the agenda?
Sorry.
Ethan?
So, some of you might know this, but I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I've worked in mental health care with families, involved in the child welfare system, struggling with substance use disorder and poverty, in a lot of different intersections. And one of the overall themes that I'm sure you all understand too is a lack of trust in government and a lack of trust in their police force, and not feeling like their law enforcement is there as a resource for them, is there as people who are dedicated to their safety, feeling that the justice system works really well for folks who have stable incomes, who are in the right neighborhoods, and that their neighborhoods are over-policed. Now, I haven't done a survey of Windsor per se, but I've worked all over the state of Vermont, and that is almost without fail the common theme. I'm really grateful for Chief Frank's tenure in our town. I think she did a lot of really great things, and I think one of her values that she talked to me about was community policing. And to me, community policing is this idea that police officers and law enforcement are building relationships with the people they're serving. That children don't have to be scared to see a police officer. That they are thought to be a safe presence for them. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. That was not my experience of law enforcement when I was a child. Police didn't come to protect me in my neighborhood. That wasn't my experience. But I so badly want that to be the experience of every kid in Windsor. If we don't have a process through our democratically elected representatives directly making this decision, in my opinion, we are going to sacrifice, I would argue, all of the gains that Chief Frank has made in her tenure in community policing. Let's not do that. So I think that's the Windsor that we all want to live in, is where people see law enforcement as a resource and as a safety for everyone. Let's not jeopardize that. Let's have this be a thorough, not 24-hour turnaround a candidate position. Let's have this be thorough. Let's have people be able to have trust and faith in this decision because they put their trust and faith in you. I put my trust and faith in you.
Thank you, then. Are there any other public comments for items not on the agenda? I think I got everyone.
Just real quick, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay, thanks. Jamie Carmichael. Hey, is it possible to understand the process from the board as to what's occurring and the next steps? I know it's my comment time, but is that something to get, since I think it moves beyond questions after this?
Tom, do you want to explain where you're?
Yeah, simply put, the charter indicates that the town manager is responsible for all staffing decisions. And there's a variety of ways to approach that. I know not everyone or anyone here is in agreement of the current process, but I have a candidate, and the next step is for the select board to meet the candidate in person, ask whatever questions they like. And once that process is finished, the meeting will adjourn once the executive session is adjourned, and I will take that input and make the decision whether or not to move forward.
Thank you for the information on that. Is it possible to stay this decision? I'm sure we have some internal candidates that are well qualified to represent the department in an interim position and give the opportunity for either the charter to be reviewed, especially in light of upcoming staff turnover. Does that make sense for the process, Tom or others?
Well, I really don't think it's productive to get into a conversation on the process, but I don't see that scenario unfolding.
Just because it was a question posed.
And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to let people go twice. I did give you a spot, but Emma.
Jamie, to answer your question, from what I'm experiencing on the board right now is that Tom communicated with us in executive session about Chief Frank leaving and starting to look into some candidates. And we are kind of all having a lot of questions about how that process works and about the candidate. And now the plan is for us all, because our interest is piqued in this process and how we can help guide Tom and get Tom's input as a person that has been in this position for a while, but still listen to the people that are coming in. And I don't think we've had a room this full of people that wanted to comment on this type of thing for a while. So we are working with Tom at this moment to figure out what's going on. There is some lack of clarity on my part on who's on the literal hiring of it, but at its heart, we are supposed to be helping to guide Tom and his decisions on what's going on. And if there are people on the board that would end up having a really big problem with this hire, that could be stopped by the select board if, after meeting this person and understanding if there's other candidates, we feel not comfortable with them. I hope that made any sense. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate Tom. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to be speaking still, but I appreciate it. I did join a few minutes late, so I just wanted to understand exactly from the town's perspective what was going on. I agree with Davis and everyone else who spoke before me, and certainly agree with their feelings on the process. It's disappointing to hear. I'm sure there'll be opportunities for the town and the voice to be heard. And I'm not sure if Tom, you're able to share some of the hiring details and process steps. I think that would be potentially good. I don't know if it can be posted or something as you're going through the process. At least that way there's transparency, even if you are the one that has the pen to sign it off. At least the town knows. But appreciate the time, and I will echo. I'm disappointed with what might be unfurling.
Thank you, Jamie. Ryan, is your hand up? You gotta turn your mute off or, hold on.
Should be working.
Can't hear you.
Wouldn't be a good select board meeting.
That muted them, so.
Keep muted. And now unmute him.
Try to unmute on your side again, Ryan. There you go. You're unmuted here.
I'm sorry, I just cracked.
Can't hear you.
Everybody gonna have for dinner? Baron pepperoni pizza, but I put all the pepperoni on one side of the pizza, so it's like a lot.
Ryan, are you still trying? Okay. I hear static. I can hear static, Ryan. I don't know if there's something wrong with your. You want to try to rejoin? And then see if it works? Okay. I take that as a yeah.
Mm.
Here's static. So I can hear something, just not.
To go to the park with Milo for the first time this year, which was really nice. Everybody, just so you know.
Is it still icy out there?
No, it's like really nice. Except there's not new sand in the sandboxes yet, but he's resilient, so. Is he coming back?
Maybe he can get keys and probably takes about 2 minutes to try to redo whatever he's got to do.
There always has to be one thing that doesn't.
Do you want to make a comment? No.
Every meeting.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Yeah. Yeah, just so the microphones can pick you up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah. So I'm Julia from Brownsville and just want to, looking up, speak to the hiring process. I mean, like there are guidelines given by the state that talk about, like a committee and advertising. And as a member, we have an MOU with Windsor. And just want to say that I echo that like this process feels, well, I mean, it is not transparent and it feels that way. So I think sort of the feeling aligns with what's happening. And so, yeah, I think that we can be doing more and better. I mean, I recall being like 26 and, applying for a position and I had like, 8 stakeholders at the table for like a $30,000 a year position working with like 100 kids. So I just feel like if we're talking about a town and not only that, but a, police chief that is providing services to other surrounding towns, then, valuing the voice of those people that they are, coming in to serve and protect just makes a lot of sense. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Julia. Ryan, are you working? I can't hear you.
Can you call in, Ryan?
Do you want me to call you? Or put it in the chat? Depends how much.
Maybe answering a question.
It sure is Wacky Wednesday today. Reheat your nachos. I said reheat your nachos. Sorry. No, he can't say we did not try.
Ryan
Palmer. He's so good.
Okay, I know his phone is.
Oh, wait.
Let's give it one last effort here.
I'm on my phone now. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go.
Are we done with public? Is everyone done? Public comment?
I thought that's what,
Oh, yeah.
you
I
raised your
just- I
hand
just was
during
wanting to
public comments.
make sure that people could speak before me.
Yes, everybody has spoken,
All
I
right.
believe.
So, I just voiced a lot of their same concerns. I want a competitive and fair and a comprehensive hiring process. I feel like we've alienated our community and denied them any voice in the selection of really the most powerful person of our local government. Law enforcement officers are entrusted with the authority to take somebody's life or freedom away, right? And this so-called process that we've engaged in goes against national best practice. It goes against what Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns, Vermont Department of Public Safety has suggested. It's what subject matter experts in our area have suggested. And it's incredibly flawed, and we're certainly doing a disservice to our town by not attempting to attract the most qualified and capable candidates. And that may be the person that Tom wants to hire. That may be the case that they come out on top. But they were hired through a competitive process when they were picked for the chief of Weathersfield. And, the town of Plainfield, for example, just went through this. I spoke to their town administrator yesterday. They did a national search. They ended up with 7 or 8 really qualified candidates. They narrowed that down to 3. And he described as any 3 of those would have been a fantastic chief of police. So again, to sit here with a straight face and to say that this is the best, we're doing the best for the town of Windsor is a lie. And to allow this, we should be ashamed of ourselves to think that this is any sort of way to conduct a search for a chief executive law enforcement officer for a town. So there you have it.
Thank you, Ryan. I think I've heard from everybody.
Somebody's trying.
Oh, gosh. All right, so we're going to conclude the public comments. On the agenda today, we have executive session for the appointment or employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee. No votes will be taken. I would need a motion to move into executive session.
I'll make a motion. A second.
Emma seconds. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, everybody.